Welcome into Make a Difference with Phil Martelli. He is Phil Martelli. I am Jared Phillips, and we are in the thick of it with the summer. It's the off season for hoops, for school, for a lot of things. A lot of folks taking vacation, whether you're operating a business. It's definitely that slower time of the year, but it's definitely not a time to get complacent, right?
No, you cannot. No, you cannot. So as we were preparing, I thought of this. We're going to issue a challenge. Everybody out there watching, the business leaders, to your company, to the grandparents, to the parents, to the children, to the teachers. Here's the challenge. Let's become a better person each and every day. Well, how do I do that? How about if you just say hello to somebody in passing that you haven't connected with? A better person. A better person. Become a better student. We're all still students. Be a better student. And everybody hears it over and over again on Make a Difference. You become a better student by reading. Reading. It is slow right now. So read something that drives you, that you're passionate about. If you can find an old-fashioned newspaper, that's me. That's where you'll find me. Better person, better student, and then better question mark. What's your passion? Pursue your passion. I guarantee coming up in our guest segment, you're going to hear about the pursuit of a passion that has led our guest to the top rung in college basketball. So I ask you all, can you be a better person tomorrow? And then guess what? The next day and the next day. Can you be a better student? Is there more for you to learn? And can you become a better, and put in that question mark? You want to be a better basketball player? Spend more time. Want to be a better coach? Study. Be a better teacher? A better parent? Pursue your passion. That's the challenge. And the challenge comes from Make a Difference.
Almost sounds like a challenge worthy of a Martelli Minute by chance.
I know, Martelli Minute, Dale Carnegie. Man, they're cooking. I get something every week from them. Status Solutions, still looking in Philadelphia to hire a person. Who'd they come to? They came to the people at Make a Difference asking for a recommendation. So here we are. Every day, 6:30, even in the quote unquote off season. Phil_Martelli, Instagram.
That's right.
Somebody asked me last week when I was speaking to some groups, and they said, well, how do you sign up? I'm like, you don't sign up. It's free. It's our way of giving back. But here it is. In times of stress, respond appropriately. Avoid reacting emotionally. Live today and parts of every day with the heart of a child. At times, I would say the mind of a child, but some people take that to, well, I can just be immature, not fully developed. No. Live today with the heart of a child. Hard work is greater than good intentions. Failure provides a guiding light on what not to do when you try again. Failure is not final. This is a really big one for me. Remember, someone is always counting on you. And then finally, the Martelli Minute. Strive to make your presence light other people up. Every day, 6:30.
On Instagram, at Phil_Martelli. I would say the Martelli Minute is really up there as one of the more, I would say, iconic social media trends. And someone that we have coming up here has really got, I would say, one of the more iconic brands in college basketball when it comes to having
What a
that
presence.
I mean when you I think of his tweets, they're pretty much synonymous with college hoops, right?
Omnipresent, right? Omnipresent. Television, podcast, social media, the tweet world. His tweet game is like all American level. He'd have been picked in the NBA draft.
He's a Hall of Fame tweeter.
Oh yeah, just on tweets, he'd have been a lottery pick, top 10 for sure. We're excited about this guest. Can't wait for you to meet him. Every time this guest segment gets me so juiced up, I spend the previous 36 hours going through things, making sure I didn't miss anything. And this is no different. And this is another one that could go on and on and on. But in respect for everybody's time, we're going to keep it to about 7-8 questions.
I was going to say you probably have 7 or 8. I probably have another 15. But
we're not going.
We'll get to what we can get to. Yeah,
we're going to do that.
Yeah.
But think about this: distinguished alum from Ithaca College, networking skills beyond reproach. Our guest has a unique ability to connect on a personal level. Son of 2 educators. I don't even know if this is a term, but we're going to work through this term. A tweet extraordinaire. No one better. No one better, right? Relentless worker, extraordinary connector. Puts people at ease. He has an award-winning podcast, not just like the, average Joe like ours. He's an award-winning podcast, and he squeezed us in. We really appreciate that. How about this? I didn't know. A true entrepreneur, a very, very young guy, buys his own radio slot, and then goes about selling his own ads. And this is without question the most extensive Rolodex. You don't even know what a Rolodex is, but the most extensive Rolodex in the sport of college basketball. Please welcome a dear friend and a basketball junkie, but a real solid guy in this profession, Jon Rothstein. Jon, thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you guys. Phil, always a pleasure.
So, Jon, I have to start with this one. What gave you the courage to start on this career path? Like, you literally bought your own radio slot, but where'd the courage come from to start that career path?
Phil, as you had referenced, I was the son of 2 educators. My mother was a special education teacher. My father was a guidance counselor. And they were people who chose their vocations because they wanted to make a difference, no pun intended. But they also were people who I think were driven by the stability of education. And I saw they made a career that they enjoyed. But I didn't know if I always felt that my parents loved what they did. And I had great passion for sports media, a passion that started on, I would say, March 30th, 1991, which was the date that Duke beat UNLV 79-77 in the 91 Final Four. It ended UNLV's 45-game winning streak, and it put Duke on the map for the first time as a team that could win the national championship, because up until that time, Coach K had not won a national championship at Duke. So at that point, I remember vividly, my parents, they've been married 51 years. We just threw them a 50th surprise anniversary party last year, which was, I would say, unequivocally the best thing I've ever done in my life. And I remember I could count as a child on one hand how many times they argued. And I remembered that day, March 30th, 1991, my mother had made plans with a roommate of her from college, and they were going to go out as 2 couples. And about 4:30, my father said, "Well, I'm not going tonight." And she said, "What do you mean? We have plans, we have this." And she says, "I'm not missing this game. It's a rematch from the national championship game the year before." And I remember that was the first time that I watched college basketball at a high level with my father, and I've been hooked ever since. And that was really the genesis, I think, of where passion began in my life. And I started to take that and then start to look at some of the lessons that I was learning from my parents, but also observing that they weren't always maybe as thrilled as somebody could be chasing a dream, chasing a vocation. So I made it my life's mission to have a career on the air in sports media, and it went in a number of different directions and a lot of different rejections. Because when you're starting out and you have no ins, no hooks, nobody who can get you an internship, no aunt, no uncle, no mother, no father who can make a phone call, you get rejected time and time again. But it's that resilience, I think, that built the foundation for a career of mine that still has a long, long way to go.
Obviously, we have a deep friendship. And as I was writing this out, this is what came to mind. Some in this industry get caught up with the flash. What I've always respected about you, Jon, was you had a life balance. You could have a conversation about and fill in the blank. It didn't have to do with the 4-star player or the NIL deal or whatever. So I consider you to be extraordinary in that area. Life balance. Was that acquired, or is that something you've developed?
It's changed the last 10 years. I mean, I've met my wife almost 9 years ago, so she's had a big impact on a lot of different things. And another thing that happened, Phil, I would say probably 8 months before I met my wife in 2017, was I remember there was a UConn game on CBS Sports Network. This was January 8th, 2017. And the sideline reporter, couldn't get there or whatever, so they called me and said, can you jump on this game? It was when UConn was in the American Conference. And then it snowed in New York the day before, just about an inch or two. And I remember I did studio work that Saturday, and Sunday I was driving up. It was probably a 2 o'clock game. And I hit a patch of black ice on the Merritt Parkway. And I lost control of the car, and I went from the right lane to the left lane, and I had to pull the e-brake. And I remember doing a 180 on the Merritt Parkway and totaling the car. If another car, was coming, I would have been toast, and I ended up fracturing a couple of ribs. But that experience changed my entire perception of life. And that, to me, showed really how fragile every single day is. And it also allowed me to get in a lot of deep thinking about the world that there was outside of this bubble. We sometimes live in this bubble where we are just totally consumed by all that's going on in college basketball. And to a degree, I am too, and I think about it, and I think about the season ahead, and I think about teams and lineups, and that's where the passion and the excitement comes from. But there are plenty of people today, guys, who are excited about being partner in a law firm or about being a musician at Carnegie Hall. And I think as you get a little bit older, you gain the perspective and you hope the wisdom to understand that just because we are on certain paths, whether it's to be at a certain place in sports media, whether it's to take a team to the Final Four, that doesn't mean that there's other people out there that don't obviously have different passions for different things. I remember probably when I was in my late 20s and 30s, I was so immersed and so driven and so filled with tunnel vision to make this my career. I remember I was chasing Ben Howland when he was the UCLA coach, and we were having a deep talk, and he was, asking me where I've been, who I've seen, and he was telling me, if you give yourself a reprieve and really find time just to work in other things, you're going to be better at your job. And now sometimes, maybe then talking about, to start a conversation, can the A-10 get 3 bids? Or can the Big East get 6 bids? You might find yourself having a conversation. Did you think Phil Collins was better with Genesis or by himself? Or what do you think if you had to make, a conversation was Morgan Freeman's best role? And again, as I met my wife and now, you have a child, you see a little bit more what's important. And not to say other things aren't important, but your perspective grows. I don't know who the author was, but I was reading it. There's a quote, "No wise man ever wished to be younger." And that's something that I find more and more as I get older, because people sometimes say in conversation, "Oh, if I could go back in time, I would do this." Nobody should ever wish to go back in time, because the experiences, both good and bad, that we have had shape us for who we are today. And Phil, I've found this more in the last year. Things, are not always perfect in life. And I find sometimes if something goes the other way, whether I'm on the air or if something changes in reporting, as you know, sometimes do, if you're reporting on 1,000 stories, a player changes his mind or something technically goes wrong, you learn more from those things than you do the 99.6% of the time something goes right. I remember one time I was doing a game, it was last December in Newark. Arkansas, Houston, CBS. Calipari, Kelvin Sampson, 2 top 15 teams. And I'm getting ready for my opening hit, and I'm talking about the momentum that Arkansas has. And Phil, you know this because you do TV now. I get ready to do my opening hit, and my feed goes out when they're getting ready to throw to me. So my feed gets distorted, and it bothered me time and time again for days. And I called somebody and he said, "You have no control over that. What you have control over moving forward is if you're the reporter, you can get within line of sight of your play-by-play guy and see if he's going to toss to you when he stops talking. Or you can go to your cameraman and say, can you give me a little bit of a point when it's time to start talking?" So by that circumstance, I became a much better sideline reporter for the NCAA tournament and all the games I did the rest of the season. Another time, it was a different circumstance, but I was dealing with an agent, and Phil, you and I have talked about this with whether it's, going in the draft, going back to school, and the agent gave me incorrect verbiage. And, it was an anonymous report, and I had to go back to him a little while later, and I said, "You know what? I'm hearing this is now going in the other direction. I'm going to need an on-the-record statement saying that the opposite is happening." And I said to myself, you know what? I was really perturbed going through those things, but I said, you know what? You're so much sharper now.
Yes.
Because you understand that things are beyond your control, and you have to find a way to amend that. And you're going to be that much more disciplined. You're going to be that much more thorough in all aspects by going through something that by no rationale for your own preparation or own skills, but you're going through things that you had no control over that went the other way.
Wow. Powerful right there. Powerful. So, John, those that know you will know what I'm about to say is true. You are a true food connoisseur.
Yes.
So because we have a largely Philadelphia-based, but many that want to come to Philadelphia, what's the must-stop in Philadelphia?
I always enjoyed, Phil, when I would come to Philly to see you guys play or Villanova or Dunf, and I was staying downtown. I thought Park and Rittenhouse Square gave you a really good Philadelphia experience. I always thought that kind of gave you a feeling of what it was like, downtown in that area, which is obviously a great area. I thought that Del Frisco's had a really, really cool ambiance with those high ceilings. Those were two, I would say, for a nice restaurant. In Philadelphia, you can go anywhere and eat, crap and get a cheesesteak and, and do that. But I thought those two, if I was going, to eat in downtown Philadelphia, I thought were standouts.
John, did you have a cheesesteak spot, though? I feel like we got to know.
Look, when I was younger, Phil used to remember this, and I would be networking with coaches at Philly U. We would go to D'Alessandro's, and I would be able, like in my late 20s, to have 3. It's like you would be able to have this is how things change when you get to your 20s and your 30s. You would have like 3 cheesesteaks. You'd just go for a run on like the treadmill the next day, and then you'd be there at the 9 a.m. game. It'd be like nothing happened. That doesn't happen in your 40s.
John, You alluded to it a little bit earlier, but the state of our beloved game.
Yeah.
But I want below the surface. I'm not interested in hearing, oh, woe is us, NIL, woe is us, transfer portal. I've read a number of your tweets. I read every one of yours, but during the year, you did talk about the quality of play. But below the surface there, where's our game?
The game on the court, Phil, or the game off the court?
The game on the court.
The game on the court at the power conference level is the best that it's ever been since I've been doing this, because we have players now who are financially making the decision to play college basketball rather than go to the NBA. You guys saw it last week. The second round of the NBA draft is completely watered down because of the amount of players who are opting to come back to college basketball. In between the lines, it is fantastic and high level. But we have a level of separation right now that is growing wider and wider, not just between, I would say, the top 4 or 5 conferences and everybody else, but also some of the non-power conferences who have programs that are well-funded, like VCU, like St. Louis, like other programs in non-power conferences that make a real commitment. Those programs, compared to programs that are in true mid-major leagues right now, the gap is astronomical. Phil, I remember years ago, and this is deep in the archives right now, I want to say it was the 11-12 season. Thanksgiving Eve, you guys at St. Joe's played Iona. I believe the game went to overtime. CJ Aiken was on the team, and it was a back-and-forth game like a heavyweight fight in New Rochelle. And it was a fantastic college basketball game. They had a great mid-major team. You guys had great talent. But now you would never see a team from the A-10 on a comparable playing ground to a team at a mid-major school, even if it's out of New York anymore, because of the dollars and cents discrepancy. And that is, I think, where things are really, really changing right now. If you are at a place, again, like a VCU or a St. Louis, you are even in a different sphere than some of those mid-major programs. And it wasn't always like that. But now with the transfer portal, with name, image, and likeness, we have a much more level playing field among the programs that are well-resourced. And I think one of the big things that has happened, and this is a deep, deep view from 30,000 feet out, other than Duke and UConn, 2 teams that ironically enough played in the Elite Eight, which programs in college basketball are operating right now as blue bloods, like we knew and grew up? Kansas has not been to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament since it won the national championship in 2022. Yeah. Kentucky has not been to the Final Four since 2015, although I think if things went a certain way, John Calipari could have gotten there another 3 or 4 times. He had a number of tough losses in the tournament. UCLA went to a Final Four in 2021. They are struggling to get to a place where some of the elite spenders are right now with name, image, and likeness. Louisville has won 1 NCAA tournament game since Rick Pitino left in 2017. And these are just facts of life right now that we have to deal with. And that's why I think, we are seeing so much balance right now across the board in college basketball, where we have now, because there's great funding at BYU, they can get the number 1 pick in the draft. Because there's great funding at Texas Tech, they can be a team that's going to be a top 16 seed in the NCAA tournament. And because there's great funding at St. John's, a program that up until 2025 had not won an NCAA tournament game in 25 years, St. John's is going to be a perennial top 10 team as long as they have Rick Pitino and as long as they have Mike Rapoli.
Amen. So, John, the story of the summer, it seems like the daily story stays player movement, player acquisition, payrolls, that kind of thing. I believe that a major change to our game occurred, and it's not on the back pages. It's not inside anymore, even on the newspapers. But expansion.
Yep.
Where are you on this expansion?
Look, I was very outspoken about NCAA tournament expansion throughout this because, to me, NCAA tournament expansion tremendously lessens the importance of college basketball's regular season.
Amen.
And the people who are making rational arguments or attempting to make rational arguments to say that this isn't going to be solely related to getting more power conference teams in the NCAA tournament, they're lying to themselves and they're lying to everybody else.
Amen. Preach.
So rather than dwell on things I can't change, because I can't change the fact that the NCAA tournament is going to feature 76 teams moving forward, I am choosing to work and program my brain on what a 76-team tournament would look like. Now, with that said, we have to remember there was a lot of talk that, the NCAA tournament expanded by 8 teams. We have to remember that with the new Pac-12 conference coming into effect in 26-27, there's going to be 7 more at-large spots. What does that mean? It means, and I hope this is what happens, I hope that teams in non-power conferences, whether it's VCU, St. Louis, Santa Clara, San Diego State, Utah State, use now the fact that there's 7 more bids to aggressively schedule more in the non-conference portion of play so that the NCAA tournament expansion will not be solely for teams from power conferences. That's what I'm hoping for. But it also, Phil, and you know this because you're as invested in VCU's program as anybody, the jobs right now at these mid-majors where there's an expectation and a commitment to win, in a 76-team tournament, VCU, St. Louis, Dayton, Santa Clara, St. Mary's, San Diego State, Utah State, you better be in the NCAA tournament.
Amen.
And I have, had a lot of conversations with coaches, a lot of them at the power conference level, who were obviously campaigning for NCAA tournament expansion. And I said to them, I would not want to be a coach in a power conference in a tournament where there's 44 at-large bids who did not hear his name on Selection Sunday. That is not going to be good for the job security of coaches. And really, I think at the genesis of expansion, coaches thought this would help them keep their jobs. The coaches who don't make the NCAA tournament are going to be an endangered species. And Phil, the thing that I really think, some of the best theater we have in college basketball are the games after the Super Bowl to Selection Sunday where teams have to win to make the field. I remember doing it with you in 2016 at St. Joe's. You guys ripped through the season, but I believe, Phil, this is deep in the archives right now. You guys, I think, had a week. This is deep in the archives. I don't know if this was 14 or 16, Phil, but I think it was 14. I'm going through my head. You had a week where you had St. Louis, VCU, and UMass with Chaz Williams at home at Hagan Arena, and you won 2 out of 3 that put you in position to be a 10 seed in the NCAA tournament. And that week was incredible theater because you had 3 home games in 7 days against teams in the field. I remember 2 years ago, Calipari's first year at Arkansas, Adu Thero was out with an injury. Boogie Fland was out with an injury. They started 0-5 in SEC play. And I remember Jay Wright saying during that season, this is the best coaching job that John Calipari's ever done because he got his team back after major injuries and starting at 0-5. But Phil, every game that Arkansas played from February 12th to March 16th was like appointment television because they had to pitch a perfect game to get to the tournament. And that team went on going to the Sweet 16. And we are going to miss that a little bit.
Amen. Amen.
We are going to miss that a little bit. And it's going to be a disservice to the sport.
John, I would. That should end the whole thing. That could end our podcast right there, because I have said this to people. You have destroyed the bubble, and no matter what anybody wants to say, first of all, Monday through Thursday after Selection Sunday, everybody in the country is talking about matchups and the team that was left out.
Yep.
Now we don't have that because now we have teams racing after being announced to get to a Dayton, to get to a Kansas City, wherever they put the second first four. But I'm telling you, I lived it. I walked out of George Mason on January the 10th. VCU was 2-2 in the league. They were 10-6 overall.
Yep.
And I said to myself, I can't believe I was wrong. I saw them in the summer, and I was wrong. Okay, they're going to be an NIT team.
Yep.
That's good. And then I went, no, it's not. It's VCU.
Yep.
Being NIT bound for VCU is not good. So then I got nodded, but I said, every game from this day forward, they are on the proverbial bubble.
Yep.
And they won 17 out of 19. And there was such joy every single night because, yeah, it's painful, but man, John's words, appointment TV.
Yep.
Appointment TV. And people coming on and arguing and that's gone. Like, there's nobody going to go on TV and say, yeah, we're really right there. And you're the 79th team. That's not perfectly stated. Perfectly stated. John, you brought us a game. Is there a coach or a player that has stayed with you, or a moment with a player that has stayed with you in your heart and your mind and has driven you to go from good to great in your profession?
A player I've covered, or watching a player, or
either or.
Great question. I will say this, and I'm not just saying this because it's topical right now. The 17-18 season, there were two players that were really in the front for National Player of the Year. One was Trae Young because he was putting up insane numbers, and one was Jalen Brunson, and that was during Villanova's second national title run in 3 years. And I was one of the people who just said, starting in January, you have to start looking at Jalen Brunson for National Player of the Year because of what his team is doing. You know, it's not like somebody is putting up stats and they're going to be a 7-8 seed for what his team is doing. And, you know, that carried throughout the NCAA tournament when Villanova won the national title. And the day after the title game, I get a text from a number I didn't have. And it says, John, this is Jalen Brunson. I just want to thank you for your support and kind words all year. And I'm not, like, I haven't talked to him in 8 years since that, but I remember talking to the Villanova staff, and I said, for a kid to do that who's 20 or 21 years old, you can tell there's a lot there. And, you know, you say, is there a coach, Phil? I mean, Phil, you know how hard I worked to build relationships with people so they were genuine. I think you all are wired so differently. It makes it one of the most unique parts of the job because no coach has the same personality.
It's really interesting. Really interesting. This has been in my brain, even in the Philadelphia market and all over. So Jalen Brunson is being celebrated. Everybody out there needs to celebrate him beyond 2 NCAA championships, now beyond an NBA championship, beyond turning back money so that they could have a better team to next. That young man graduated from Villanova in 3 years.
Yep.
That's having your stuff together on and off the court. So I salute that. I'm delighted that he's the one. John, you earlier in the conversation, you said sports media.
Yeah.
Did it morph into basketball, or why basketball for you? Why has basketball taken control?
I knew I was gonna have to. I knew I was gonna have to take any opportunity I could get to break in. So I started because I started covering prep players and things like that when I was in high school and in college, Ben Gordon, Hilton Armstrong, players like that in the greater New York area. And I was freelance writing for a long time. And that was where I felt my passion was, but I knew that I wasn't necessarily going to have an opportunity to do my passion right away, because if you have to take whatever opportunity you have. So I was balancing for a long time the basketball passion with doing talk radio, because I was doing talk radio for the ESPN radio affiliate in New York. And I wanted to do the basketball job and cover your games, like, when you were playing Creighton and Villanova and Temple, and when, I wanted to be at St. John Seton Hall, but I couldn't afford to not work the radio job because I wasn't making enough money to make a living. So I balanced them as much as I could. And in 2010, it was my third year at the MSG network, my first TV job where I did college basketball. And I had done updates, fill-in hosting, things like that on ESPN radio for 6 years. And I remember it was a Saturday morning, and I was feeling really excited about the season ahead. It was the 10-11 season. And my boss at ESPN Radio was getting ready to start an ESPN radio affiliate in Los Angeles and offered me the 10-1 spot Monday through Friday at the ESPN radio affiliate in Los Angeles. So I was probably 26, 27 at that time. But I also had an offer to do the role I've been doing at CBS College Sports, which is now CBS Sports Network, and I wanted to see that through. So it's not like I was able to just, get a job and start doing this. It took a long time, and bypassing other things, Phil. Like, I had a lot of friends in New York in my 20s who would travel and go on different vacations, and I would go to AAU tournaments and All-American tournaments and network with coaches and go to practice. And I found this to be one of the things that I will never lose. It took me well into a decade plus at CBS for CBS to ever give me any money to reimburse for my travel. That was stuff that I all paid for out of my own pocket. So I was literally trying to go across the country as much as I could and see all these different teams. And I just, as you know, Phil, because I came and saw you a bunch at Michigan, I just turned it into a science. You learn how to do it. It's just like, okay, New York to Detroit Tuesday morning, Michigan State Thursday morning. You have Detroit to Syracuse. You see Syracuse, and you take the 6 o'clock flight after practice and get back to LaGuardia Thursday night. Like, you learn the airports, you learn the hubs, you learn how to get points so you can get free flights. You just master it, because you never want to be in a situation where you feel like I could have done X, Y, or Z and gotten the break that you got. So my whole thing is this: nobody is ever going to be more hardworking. Nobody's ever going to be lower maintenance as a coworker, and nobody is going to be more informed.
Amen.
And more professional. And people say, well, why do you wear a suit all the time when you go to practice? I tell this story all the time, or sometimes I should say. When I was struggling to get any break in sports media, I used to drive into the city when I was, doing radio updates on Saturdays and Sundays from 3 to 12. And that was the time that Brian Williams was hosting NBC Nightly News. And there was this huge billboard on the West Side Highway, Reporting America's Story with Brian Williams, Monday through Friday at 6:30. And I always saw that, and I always kind of gravitated towards it. So one of the roles I had when I was working at ESPN Radio was I was doing updates for Michael Kay's show on the afternoon drive slot. And he says to me one day, just letting you know, Brian Williams is coming in to sit on tomorrow's show, sit in with his son. I just wanted to give you a heads up. And I said, well, if Brian Williams is going to be here, I need to wear my best suit. So I wear my best suit to the studio. I'm doing updates. And we start having a little bit of a back and forth. And Michael Kay brings him on the air, and he says, Brian, I got to ask you. You interviewed world leaders. You've interviewed heads of state. Who intimidates you the most? And he said, John, because he's doing radio updates in a suit. And he got on the phone, and he called my parents and told them about the impression I made and how professional I was. And
Wow.
then I would say 6 to 9 months later, I was going to meet a buddy for a beer somewhere in Midtown, and I bumped into him, and he said to me, "Where's your suit?" So I will never step foot on a college campus without a suit on.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
2 questions, John. 2 left. What's next for college basketball? What should we anticipate is coming?
Well, the only thing for sure, Phil, is that nothing is for sure, but I will say this consistently, and you, me, Tom Izzo, Matt Painter, John Calipari's been very outspoken about it, but I remember you, me, Tom Izzo, and Matt Painter talking a lot during the pandemic. There's been a lot of things that have gone off the rails in college basketball, but one thing has been something that's ignited this, and that's been unlimited transfers.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of pushback for a long time about, being able to transfer without sitting out. And I think everybody got to a place where they said, you know what, if you want to do it one time, everybody can be okay with that if you have one free transfer, or if somebody's coach gets fired that they committed to play for. But that rule and the NCAA not enforcing the fact that a player can transfer 3-4 times without a penalty, combined with name, image, likeness, has led to the anarchy that we see. And that's really all of it. I've talked to coaches for a long time, and they have frustrations with name, image, and likeness. It all starts with one thing: unlimited transfers. Fix that, Phil. You could tell me if I'm wrong. 60 to 70% of the problems go away.
And the undercurrent is, and again, it's the summer, so it's a little bit. The undercurrent is there's a belief out there that this 5 years, to play 5 years, there's a belief that it's going to come back to one-time transfer. That's it. One time. You use your 5 years. If you decide to use a second transfer, then you sit. That's how you use one of your 5 years. There is a belief.
Well, this is another thing. The NCAA, when they announced that a couple of weeks ago, clearly stated that there are no waivers anymore.
Yeah,
with this new 5. So what I'm saying is, we need to keep an eye out and see if that's enforced, because if there's no waivers, we've gotten through something in terms of clarity with eligibility. That's part of the biggest problem.
And we could speak to all the people listening, anybody that watches this. For X number of years, you have a better sense than I do. But our conversations would always end if they would just stop the waivers.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Final question will make a difference. Who's made a difference in your life, John?
Wow, what a question. My parents. Just incredible people who fought to give their children every opportunity to explore what they've wanted. And my wife, who has made me more grounded and also allowed me to see the other side of things a little bit more, to have a little bit more balance, a little bit more fun, and understand that you can be really passionate and want to be really successful, and you can do a lot of other things in life too that I wouldn't have explored.
Well, as a friend, I'm going to say this. You have given more to this game and to the profession than you've taken. That makes you a star. And I can't wait to see where you go, and can't wait to see you on that campus in Richmond at VCU. There's a lot going on down there.
A lot going on. What a commitment, right? Like I'm baffled. I'm baffled, and people don't know this, but you go into VCU's practice facility, and it's better than 60 to 70% of power conference practice facilities. It's incredible, just the commitment there, and you think about things, how life obviously happens, And Phil, this is really deep into the archives, but I think about this and how this is part of the greatness of the NCAA tournament and part of the greatness of March Madness. VCU in 2011 loses to Old Dominion in the CAA title game. Old Dominion, I had followed that whole season and was convinced that was going to be the mid-major darling. They lost to Butler at the buzzer in the round of 64, but Butler Old Dominion that year was an 8-9 game. That shows you how good Old Dominion was. So VCU finds a way into the first four. VCU in the regular season that year averaged 8.3 made three-point shots a game. In the NCAA tournament, VCU averaged 12, and the rest is history.
Every single day, I know a staff that's down there trying to duplicate 2011 VCU season. So, John,
Phil, can I ask you something real quick?
Yes, sure.
You were the national coach of the year. You took a St. Joe's team to within inches of the Final Four. You had great wins. You went to the NCAA tournament. You beat Cincinnati in a classic game in 2016. Did you get more joy out of seeing VCU beat North Carolina in the NCAA tournament last March than you did out of any of your greatest moments as a head coach at St. Joe's?
I would say yes, because it's blood. Although you well know the players and the staff, they were family too. But yeah, it was out of body. It was truly, truly out of body. Boy, I've never thought of it that way. People ask me which is harder watching as a parent than coaching. But for joy, exhaustion, yeah, I have to put that. That's number one right now.
You know what's another thing, too, that nobody talks about with your career, but I tell them? You guys in 2016 were really in control against Oregon. Everybody talks about the Oklahoma State game. You guys could have, if you closed that out, you're playing Duke in LA in the Sweet 16. Would you say, is that the second toughest loss of your career?
No, the second toughest loss was 03, 04, 04, 05. John, we started out the season like maybe 1-6. Pat Carroll is the star of the team. We go on to win the A-10 East. We go through the A-10 tournament.
Xavier.
And we're playing Xavier in Cincinnati for the automatic bid. We're not getting a bid. We're not because of our non-conference record. And I'm not going to say it's the only time. One of the few times in my life I didn't trust what we had done. We had always played switching man-to-man, almost a zone look on the baseline.
Right.
And for some reason, this is the play of the game. I don't live with my gut. I call man-to-man. We miss an action, and Justin Dolman slips down the lane and makes a layup, and we lose to them. And forever, that has haunted me because it was my fault. Had I trusted what we had done, and I had lived with this mantra, lose to a jump shot, never lose to a layup. Mm-hmm. And I allowed my team to lose that night on a layup. And that's the one that had, like, when I pop my eyes open once a week, it's that one, not the Oregon game. Although you make a great point. Because it was on the West Coast, because it was late, people didn't really recognize. We dead had them.
58-51, I think, at the under 4 timeout.
Yeah, we went zone, which was working for it, worked against Cincinnati. It was working. And the bit eccentric guy in the NBA,
Dylan Brooks.
Dylan Brooks made a jumper from the left wing. It was a 3. And had he missed that, we would have had the ball, like John said. It would have been under 3, holding 7. And what happened is they hit a 3 to cut it to 3 from to cut it from 7 to 4. And the next play down, we rushed the ball a little bit, rushed down the floor, and it slipped out of our guard's hand.
I'm surprised. To me, I think big honorable mention is 2014 with UConn.
UConn.
The 7-10 game. I mean, Langston Galloway has the shot to maybe win it in regulation, lose an OT, and then Shabazz Napier makes history.
But earlier in that game, right, John? Earlier in that game, we have it all planned out. They miss a shot. And John will remember
Amita Brima, 35% free throw shooter, gets the N1 and buries the free throw.
Yes, and it ties the game. And the most reliable rebounder, like, put a ball up there and say, who's going to get that rebound? Khalil Kanasevich is going to get that ball 99 times. This was the 100th time. Man, you guys are going to keep me up for weeks now.
You know what though, Phil? It's just you get older. It's part of any profession. You just learn and you move on. That's really all there is.
John, thank you. You've make a difference better for your time. I appreciate more than your time. I appreciate the everlasting friendship that we have.
You got it, guys. Great to be with you today.
John, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. I have to say, circling back to a bit earlier, when he's talking about the mistakes and the accidents that happen when you go through that profession, I was getting a little PTSD. I thought about the first time I was ever on TV, back up in live TV up in Albany, New York, and I remember I had to give some meaningless Jets transaction news in the summer or something like that. And I step up on their desk and just as soon as I get up there, the just teleprompter goes down. And that was the first and last time I ever didn't print out my scripts with me. It's like you learn from those experiences, because trying to remember the 3 random guys that were involved in this meaningless Jets trade was
wow.
Certainly made me look like a fool. And I know exactly where he's coming from, where he's about the my feed goes down and you're kind of down the river without a paddle.
Right? Couldn't you sense the passion for the game
and
the profession?
Of course.
Yeah, he's really a people guy, and when he talks about that work ethic, wearing a suit, some of those workouts that he attends are like 6 o'clock in the morning, but he always had a presence. He has an aura about him. And I wanted to say this to him. Everything that he's gotten, people will say, oh, that was well-deserved. Now, we have to change our thinking. It's well-earned, not well-deserved. You don't get it because somebody thinks you should get it, but it's a well-earned place in our game. So, John, thank you.
I really like that distinction. I'm gonna start working that in.
On that.
Yeah,
think about it.
It's really good. It's a nice daily improvement. If you think about it, which might lead us to Coaching Corner.
Coaching Corner. So we've talked about it. Now you have the high school period is over. The circuits are coming up in July. You have teams practicing. I would prefer workout, but they're practicing. And we're going to go into August here pretty quickly. So here's my question, not just to the coaches, not just to the teachers, and to the business leaders. What aspect of your organization needs tweaking and improving? So you have to self-reflect and decide. And then my suggestion to you is to seek the expert and or the opinions of experts to help you tweak and improve. Be selfish enough to take time for yourself. John brought that up. Taking time for himself has made him better. Remember Ben Howland said to him, once you can walk away, you'll be better when you come back in. So be selfish enough to take time for yourself. Be curious enough to study. What is it that you want to emulate? What is it that you need to improve? Be curious enough to study. Be courageous enough to ask for help and ask for advice. And in the coaching world, be courageous enough to call. Who do you like? You like a baseline out of bounds play that's being run at Michigan State? Get yourself on email, make a phone call, see if you can get somebody on that staff. And you will get somebody on that staff to talk with you. So be courageous enough to call and ask for advice. Be articulate enough to voice your questions and your thoughts. Don't hem and haw. Don't think, well, this is a dumb. No. Be articulate, be confident. To those who can, be willing to help. That takes confidence. When you can help, be willing to help, because that takes you believe in yourself. I can help. So we often say in the Martelli Minute, I need help is an invaluable question. So in Coaching Corner, what do you need to improve? And what resources are you going to use to make those necessary improvements? It's not an off season. It's just a downtime.
I like that a lot. But there's no downtime for you.
No. Because where have I been? So your name came up. I went to Scholastic Play-by-Play, their camp at Villanova.
Yeah, I'm sure you ran into a couple folks I'm familiar with.
Yes. Yeah. They said to me, I did this when he did that. 151 boys and girls, 5th grade to 12th grade, who are just passionate about this pursuit. These young guys and young ladies asked me questions and had conversations afterwards that were mind-blowing. So Jeremy Treatment and Neil Hartman invited me. Thank you. To all of the young people, they're going to be doing play-by-play. They're going to be blogging. They're going to be podcasting. I met 2 young 5th graders from New York, and they said, oh, this is our podcast. And I thought, geez, I don't want to tell them that I have a podcast, but it was truly an honor. And not to brag, but they brought me to tears on Monday morning when their camp evaluations came back. And one of the young people said, Phil Martelli gave the most inspirational talk that I've ever heard. So thank that young person, and we make sure that it'll make a difference. That gets out there.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Wow. Look at you.
Where will I go? I'm going to be in the presence of greatness with the Bob Hurley camp. I'm going to go up and spend time, and there'll be a lot of stories. And then we'll continue to work on the Philadelphia Coaching Academy. Get ready. We're coming. Dates are now set. Where are we going? Archbishop Wood. Where are we going? Archbishop Ryan, Monsignor Bonner, Bishop Shanahan, PYB, the 6-Man Center. We're going to Conshohocken, the Fellowship House. We're going to take our act to Jersey at Shawnee and Timber Creek. And we're going to Athens, PA. That's right. Do the numbers. 9 Philadelphia coaching academies. Can't wait to do that in September and October. And then I'm also going to be working on the Phil Martelli Player Academy, August 15th to 19th, Pocono Invitational. You have to bring your summer reading. If you're done your summer reading, which most of you should be by then, we're going to have blocks of time where we're going to go over note taking, how AI is impacting your schoolwork, and we're going to do skills and drills, and we're going to get up at 6:30, and we're going to play some hoops, and we're going old fashioned, man, because it's outdoors, outdoor basketball camp, as they say. Back to the future.
Just for reference for the Philadelphia Coaching Academy, you said 9 this coming fall. Where were we at last year?
6 last year.
Moving on up.
We're moving on up, and we're moving to some new areas. And watch, you know, it won't, I don't think it'll be by our next podcast, but the one after that, you know what we're going to be talking about, right?
No, you got to clue me in.
Come on. First place Phils.
Oh, here we go.
3 games back.
We'll see.
3 games back.
If they keep hitting.
And the bats are still a little quiet. JT, Trey Turner, Alec Boehm. Let's go, fellas. Let's go. But can you imagine where they were? 11 games back 2 months ago. The 3 games back with the All-Star game coming. I think first place by the All-Star game.
Okay. In Philly, by the way.
Yes. Health for the starting pitching.
We'll see. We'll see. I temper my expectations, but it's looked a lot better in the past 2 months here. So that's a very positive sign.
Those wins last week in Washington, 2-1 with Wheeler pitching, with an all-time top, got to be top 6-7 catches. They win 2-1. Schwarbaum goes out, 5-4 win. Those are 4 of the most classic Philadelphia wins of all time.
That's a high praise.
I know. That's the way I am.
I think you're living in the moment a little too much.
I got the pitching.
It's there. It's there. I think I might have been living in the moment too much with this episode today. What a tremendous guest. We want to thank Jon Rothstein again for joining us. An absolute pillar of the game in college hoops. And he brought the energy and he brought the passion that everybody knows to expect from him. And so we have to thank him once again. We have another great sports mind coming onto the show next week, which will be a lot of fun. A very opinionated sports mind that I'm sure people have.
And a true Renaissance man.
Oh, yeah.
Radio, newspapers, books.
All mediums.
All mediums. With a recent book out about a legendary boxer in Philadelphia.
We'll get to talk about that next week.
Talk about that.
But in the meantime, if you were looking to make a difference with Phil, head on over to pnjmakeadifference.com. That is where you can get in touch with Phil to make a difference in the classroom, in the workplace, on or off the court. We are at Make a Difference Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, at Make a Diff Pod on X. Make a Difference with Phil Martelli on Facebook. If you are watching on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple, wherever you get your podcast, we'd appreciate that 5-star rating. If you're looking for the Martelli Minute, it is at Phil_Martelli every morning at 6:30 on Instagram. And Phil, I guess we got to leave him with one last.
Go Phils.
Go Phils.